the builders making moves, the projects shaping the culture, the unfiltered thinking behind it all. This is Let's Ride, the weekly podcast from BMX that takes you inside the on-chain world. Welcome to the ride.
Hello, everybody. GM, and welcome to the Let's Ride live stream on the BMX DeFi account. I'm joined today with my co-host Deez and Justin Bibas from Cod3x, and we're super excited to dive in today and dive all into Cod3x. So without further ado, I'll pass it off to Deez to do our disclaimer and give all of the BMX updates. How's it going, Deez?
It's going well. Good. Super excited today. Kind of a last minute surprise guest, but immaculate.
I know you're excited about this one. I've been hearing all about Cod3x from Deez, you guys.
Yeah, we're speaking with a DeFi journeyman today, so I'm excited to dig into it. So it's really a privilege. But yeah, before we dive in, everything we talk about today is not financial advice. Please go do your own research for educational purposes only. Even if a lot of the things we're talking about today might even be automated. But yeah, updates on the BMX side. We just launched a 14-day competition with Sherlock. So please contact your fellow security researchers and come try to crack our V4 audits, our V4 hooks, I should say. And looking forward to shipping Deli Swap shortly after that. And then we'll dive in today exactly how maybe once Cod3x evolves into more of the portfolio management, maybe how that tooling might tap into Deli Swap. But I definitely want to speed run through this intro because I want to get to our illustrious guest here.
Got a lot to go through today.
I'll pass the mic back to you for the intro for our hot seat.
Well, welcome in, Justin. We're happy to have you here today.
Yeah, nice to be here. Thanks a lot for having me. Excited to chat. Yeah, I know Deez has been following us for quite some time, so I figured this is going to be a really good interview. So I'm looking forward to it. Don't let me down, Deez. No pressure.
No pressure. No
Yeah.
pressure.
Yeah, we'll try not to. We'll try not to.
Well, I'm curious to hear, Justin. Like, it sounds like you have this DeFi journeyman title. I'm curious to hear like your journey through the space, how you got to Cod3x, and what your current role and what your responsibilities are at Cod3x.
Yeah, sure. So I started building in DeFi in 2020. I was one of the first kernel OX DeFi and security fellows.
That's awesome.
Kind of started my journey.
That just brought me way back to like the Gitcoin, like shelling point.
I was like hunting Gitcoin bounties and trying to find a new career. At the time, I was like an analyst at a health tech company, and I saw DeFi as being kind of this amazing way to revolutionize accounting. I wasn't really bought in yet to the, Bitcoin is the new money sort of thing. More so excited by the fact that Ethereum could be used for triple entry accounting and programmable triple entry accounting. That was what was exciting to me. So naturally gravitated toward DeFi. Started just spending all my time learning smart contract engineering, learning financial engineering, and helped a guy build an empty set dollar fork in mid to late 2020. Built on Balancer a little bit. And then I was like, okay, I have this pretty narrow skill set being smart contract engineering. I need friends if I'm going to do anything cool. So founded essentially a dev co called Byte Masons in early 2021, late 2020. Took the whole team through the next block of the Kernel OX Fellowship, got them excited about DeFi, and built a yield aggregator called Reaper Farm on the Phantom network. And kind of the rest is history. We're managing hundreds of millions of TVL. I think that year we cleared $10 million in revenue without a token. Really kind of went hard, reinvested everything into the business in 2022 during the bear market, which was maybe not like the smartest idea, but certainly the most exciting idea at the time. And since then, we've just been really aggressively trying to push the envelope with regards to DeFi. And the birth of Cod3x, it started as Moon in 2022. We called it usemoon.ai. We were building wallet infrastructure for AI. We were like the very first to decentralized or DeFi AI, DeFi AI-Fi, whatever you want to call it. We built the very first kind of intent-solving AI application. You see them now like Banker or Wayfinder. We had the first production version of that in 2023. We workshopped it with a bunch of users, realized it was kind of worse than a normal interface, and leaned really hard into AI agents. So at Codex, really our mission is like just automate everything. I think the biggest, if you're not really deep in the AI trenches, the biggest kind of what the heck moment in 2024 was going through all the data in 2025 and realizing 99% of the $100 billion companies were spending on AI was wasted. Nobody was seeing ROI. The productivity lift was non-existent, barring a few cases where there was full automation and full agentic management of a pipeline or process. And so, late 2024, early 2025, we started leaning even harder into it. We stopped working on a lot of the DeFi stuff that we worked on historically, and are now kind of gung-ho in our belief that AI or agentic systems are going to replace a lot of the vaults, a lot of the managed products, as well as a lot of the interfaces we see today. So in the same way, Cursor and other AI-augmented IDEs are replacing programming interfaces, we think that financial interfaces are going to kind of face the same great replacement. So that's what we're working on. We're shipping the world's first fully automated AI perps trading terminal, wherein you can literally come in as a newbie, talk to your AI agent a little bit, and it'll fully automate a trading strategy for you. It'll manage your entries, your exits, and it will do so with perfect maintenance, perfect hygiene, so you can kind of skip past all of the things that kill newbies. And you won't get farmed and liquidated by the various people trying to do that to you when you're a new perps trader.
Wow, that's awesome. I know Deez has like a lot that he wants to ask and go through. So Deez, I'll pass it off to you for just digging into the next parts here.
Yeah, for sure. No, we crushed. We did speed run the history, which is great. But I want to dig into that just a bit. So you started in DeFi in some really great money markets, and then always wanting to push the envelope. So, in your past interviews, if anyone knows you and seen the old podcast, it's like your team has kind of refused to ship the vanilla stuff. You guys have always wanted to ship the bleeding edge and work on that cutting edge stuff. So where was the aha moment when, the Moon infrastructure kind of led way to the portfolio management? But yeah, the first early versions of Codex, the first, demo that was shown was this beautiful app that was shifting money around. What was kind of the thinking or that aha moment where it's like, we should probably focus on perps versus this standard portfolio assets under management?
Yeah, I think for us, there were a few things. Number one was the business case, being that we were building a lot of yield products. And taking a yield product, even if it's just for a single yield strategy, for example, taking it through the development process to audit, going through all the testing, abiding by best practice to ship a piece of DeFi software, you're talking between, at the low end, $100,000 or $200,000. At the high end, $500,000 to $1 million. Like if you want to build a big, robust money market, that's going to cost you over $1 million. You look at Curvance, Tapioca DAO, Teller, Astera, all these names trying to ship, super novel primitives. It's freaking expensive. So, on the other side of that, it's like, okay, I've developed this novel yield strategy. Maybe I'm delivering the best risk-adjusted returns in the business, but once you're live, you need to essentially sit on that strategy while Lindy effects build. So you need people to get comfortable with it. You need to market it. You need to share it with LPs. And that's another huge opportunity cost. You're paying engineers to monitor it. You're paying engineers to keep it live. And to get to the point where you're actually making money on it, not only is that a point that may never come, but it's very difficult to get there, even if you do have product market fit with a given yield product. So, you know, you look at that 200,000, 150,000 at the minimum, and then you look at, okay, what would it take to ship this strategy using an AI agent? Less than 10 grand. And you know, not only that, but you can build it such that it can have kind of these bespoke parameters for every user. So that was what really got us investing. And that was in late 2022. We were building this wallet infrastructure, and we're like, okay, like GPT-3 just came out. We already had 2 AI engineers on staff building this out. They pivoted from AI to crypto, maybe not at the perfect time. So we were already kind of on the bleeding edge. We were like building neural networks and stuff to manage some of our products, and we're like, okay, you know, this is a no-brainer. We need to go. And so, you know, we launched in 2023. We were the very first kind of transaction building app. We were in the GPT store. It was just called Moon GPT. We didn't have a lot of users. You know, we messed around with it a lot. We shopped the product around quite a bit. To VC, we got farmed a little bit, which is fine. But we really realized that we weren't necessarily pushing the needle, you know, because that was imperative intent solving, which is, I'm going to tell this agent what to do. It's going to do it. Maybe it'll save you some time and energy, but for the most part, just clicking buttons is easier, frankly. And so we're like, okay, we need to create declarative intent infrastructure. And so we moved from imperative to declarative, which is essentially saying, I want the user to be able to face roll and us to be able to figure out what they're trying to say. Users don't need to know where they're transacting, how much they're transacting, what they're transacting, etc. They just need to know that they want something. And a lot of times they just want to make money. And so we started building that. We started building infrastructure that allowed someone to just say, hey, make me money. And then we look at their debank portfolio, or we look at their wallet, we see what they're doing already, and we're like, okay, we know your risk profile, we'll figure it out for you. And that was very cool, but users still needed to kind of confirm the transactions, and users still needed to kind of interact in a way that was a little bit clunky. And then when you guys started hearing about Codex, when Codex started kind of entering the public consciousness in late 2024 with Big Tony, that was the first version of our fully automated solution. We were like, okay, intent solving is great, but it's one small piece of a much larger whole. And you know,
I'm sorry, quick question. Who
Sure.
or what is Big Tony? Who is this?
Yeah.
Big Tony? Sorry, I don't know.
So Big Tony is the world's first autonomous trading agent.
Okay.
And we launched him in October 2024. We launched the Tony token like a month later. And he was managing a portfolio of assets just using effectively an LLM and his own wallet. So he was making decisions and doing all this stuff fully automated. And he took $500 and he turned it into $50,000 thanks to some fabulous financial engineering.
Okay, thank you for clarifying. I wasn't sure if this was like a person or something.
Yeah, it was just a walrus, a big fat walrus. You might see him if you go on our website. He's kind of our mascot, kind of a call out throwback.
It's a good name. It's a good name too.
Yeah, and he was like modeled after Tony Soprano mixed with Jordan Belfort, you know, and that was basically his personality. And so we let people make their own Big Tonys. You know, basically you fill out this form, you can make your own little Big Tony, it'll tweet, it'll do exactly what Big Tony is doing.
I love it, a little Big Tony, I love it.
Yeah, and that was cool too, and people really liked that because it was simple, it was like one click, do it, but for us it was like, that's a demo, you know, this isn't accomplishing anything that's gonna make us billionaires. It's just like, whoa, AI agent, that's cool. Whoa, it's doing its own thing, that's cool. It's not going to build confidence, build trust in the segment. So from there, we launched Codex 0.5, which was a little bit of like a self-harm situation, like a foot gun situation, where we shipped what was essentially, and you can see 0.5, well, 0.6 right now if you go to our website and go to our app. And the idea was we're going to make the Squarespace of AI agents. And we're going to give people all the tools they need to create really powerful trading strategies, social strategies, etc. And then we were like, okay, let's show it to users, and users hated it. Too complicated, hard for people to use, too much choice. And the distance from our little demo, where it was like, one click, you have your little AI agent running around, to, okay, now you have this, frickin' space shuttle cockpit of functionality. People did not like it. So we were like, okay, let's kind of push this to the limit. Let's interview everyone we can and figure out what the problem is. And, the real problem was people don't want the Squarespace for AI agents. There's already N8N, the gum loop, a lot of sort of equivalents where it's like, here's the workflow creator. We don't want to create like a visual programming tool. We hate them. I think the users of them hate them. And we don't necessarily want to nurture that UX, which we think is kind of like an anti-pattern. So we went back to the drawing board. We were like, okay, we're going to gut this thing. We're going to beat it over the head with a stick until it's a form factor that people actually like. And so we did a ton of mock-ups. We did like a ton of user interviews. We did a ton of research. We talked to maybe a gazillion people until we effectively came up with really Cursor. Imagine the Cursor IDE, if you're familiar with that, or just like ChatGPT. You have chat on one side here. You have the trading, the chart right here, and then you have your orders. And so if you, for example, take BMX and you compress some of the like ordering functionality and replace the UI UX with a chat. So we have that on one side, and on the other side, everything is totally automated. So you have an AI agent, and instead of you needing to figure out, what's my entry, what's my stop loss, what's my TP, what's my leverage, what collateral am I using, etc. What am I trading? How am I trading it? What strategy? The AI agent is going to do all of that for you. So, for example, I go in and I say, hey, what's good to trade today? And Codex looks at 50 different assets on GMX. It looks for setups. So I have kind of a 5 out of 5 confluence system where it's like, hey, if 4 out of 5 on majors or 5 out of 5 on altcoins meet kind of the technical setup requirements, let's take the trade and go for it. And so most days it tells me not to trade. It's like too choppy, you're going to get killed. But very high win rate when it actually decides to take one. And that's coming from me, and I use the product a decent amount, but I'm by no means a power user. Our product manager and some of our community members have been testing the hell out of it, and they're getting like 70, 80+% win rates. And so like right now, the question in our heads is like, can this scale? Can normal people do this? And I feel right now we're pretty close to product market fit. How we kind of talk about it to investors is like, you look at your Axiom, you look at In Silico, Photon, you look at these trading terminals, they're absolute money printers, and they're all fighting over the same piece of the pie. And we're coming to the market with literally the only differentiated trading terminal in the entire world. And we see it as, obviously a big risk being first to market with something like this, but I think it could be a total game changer. And for the foundation, or if from BMX perspective, the average user coming through Codex is going to do 10 times the volume. The average user coming through Codex is going to be way stickier. They're not going to get liquidated instantly. They're going to have a way better experience, and they're going to have someone holding their hand the entire time. And it's not just a chatbot; it's fully automating everything. And that's what's cool to us. I kind of lost the plot. I forgot what the original question was.
Like you're kind of answering all of the things on our agenda.
I'm sorry.
No, I love it. I love it. I'm really excited. I'm right there in that precipice because I think so much of CT and so many people in general are just looking at charts, and I think they have a lot more trade ideas than they think, right?
Yeah.
But that hurdle to get into like day trading or macro trading or swing trading is pretty big, and so I think just having the confidence of an agent that's not going to mess it up and turns your ideas into action, I think is right there for the taking. But before we can, we're really getting into the meat and potatoes here, and I want to pull back just a hair. And back to the journeyman kind of aspect of things. So we've talked about all these technical pivots and how the product has evolved over the years, but how do you go about mentally thinking and just approaching? You've had so many different discords and loyal communities and followings, and these communities kind of ebb and flow, and some follow and some drop off. And I mean, I'm in the Codex Discord here, and I see, folks asking questions, and you're very patient in asking, answering things, and they have no idea the context, the journey, the experience that your team has. So how do you go about, evolving and kind of reigniting, or these rebirths or evolutions of these communities over the years? And then B, how do you go about contracting and expanding your team? Because I know you've worked with tons of engineers, really elite talent, and then your team has gotten super small in what you call it, I would say, demon mode, as I think I've heard you say. So how do you navigate these waters?
Sure. So kind of a complicated question, but I'll take a whack first at kind of the managing change. Change management is something that actually one of our community members named Bazzi, who managed like thousands of people in a government position. She was operator at the highest level, like managing huge swaths of operations. And when we were just getting started building our company, we used to sit down with her for hours just talking about, how do we manage people? What is going on? How do we manage people both from the perspective of employees? How do we manage, personal lives, families? How do we manage the community, our users, et cetera? And really, it all boils down to empathy. I think a tweet that I find really funny is that one Sisyphus tweet where he's like, the guy with $6 invested has a question for the dev, which is something like I have to deal with every single day. But, it's also, you need to understand that when someone lands in our community, they're probably coming from a long history of borderline PTSD operating within crypto. Because when you're new to the industry, the first 10 things you're going to see are probably a scam, unless you have a mentor or unless you're very likely. And so, there is kind of, when you join a new community, this inherent discomfort. As well, when there's a lot of change internal to a business, there's a lot of discomfort for the employees. And so
also, one thing I want to say is that I think this space kind of makes you see things through more of a skeptical lens, just out of like self-preservation and protection, because we have seen things go awry in the space. So you're just kind of looking through things with a more like critical or skeptical lens, just based on experiences.
Yeah, totally. And the guy with $6 asking the dev a question.
That's great.
What I like to assume is that 20 people have the same question as that guy, and they're not asking it. And beyond that, 10, 20 people are probably lurking in the Discord or are going to check it throughout the day, potentially hundreds. And so this guy with the guts to ask the question that probably a lot of people want to ask, I think that person deserves respect, no matter how annoying they might be sometimes. And, I think something that we talk about a lot is servant leadership, where it's like, if I've been given the privilege to be in this position where I get to build bleeding edge tech, I get to make big decisions, I get to fail and get back up, that's a position where, in my opinion, I owe it to the guy with $6 in the Discord and the thousands of people like him. And so that's kind of on one hand. And so maybe to sum up, like, evolving communities and bringing people from effort to effort is really a very manual process. And we've tried everything. We've tried hub and spoke, having many Discords or many platforms for the many different protocols or platforms we've managed. We try single kind of monolithic Discord, like you see right now with Codex. And frankly, none of them work. There's really nothing you can do to manage a bunch of disparate communities, which is kind of why, early this year we were like, okay, service provision is done. We're not doing any more consulting. We finished off Optimism's Superfest campaign in 2024, where we just managed the most successful DeFi campaign in history. And off the back of that, not only did everybody we were working with take credit, but they tried to throw shade on us. We got paid less than everybody, and we did all the work. And that's kind of the embodiment of service work in this space, where everybody is just trying to gut you and trade against you and find a way to extract value from you or from your team. And we've experienced that dozens of times throughout our lifetime. And so, entering demon mode was really just saying, okay, we're spending so much energy trying to help a bunch of people. We're spending so much energy trying to build, these little micro communities and grow horizontally. And I think we got enough signal with this current version of Codex that it was just like, we're kind of done with that. We need to focus on winning. We need to be less afraid to make mistakes. We need to be less afraid of what people think about us, because at the end of the day, it's like we need to aggressively pursue what's in front of us, because I think what's in front of us is, a multi-trillion-dollar opportunity.
Let's go. That's really inspiring how you tapped into that just after kind of experiencing all these different things. It's like, no, this is our path. Let's care less about the little things and focus on the big picture and the mission.
Yeah. And the thing is, people who need the sort of pampering that comes with being a consultant or doing service provision, those are people that aren't going to make it. And I'm not in the business of pampering anymore. Unfortunately, I'm in the business of shipping the future of finance, I suppose. So yeah, and then on the employee side, the way we structure our business is we literally build it around giving the workers a very stable experience. And so obviously, we need to size up and size down. This business is very cyclical. It's very contractor based. And once we stopped doing consulting, it was okay, we can't support 30, 40 people. And really a lot of consulting in this business, or a lot of work for hire, is just a net negative. It's just a really terrible low margin business to be in. Again, because everybody has pressure from 1,000 guys with $6 saying, if you spend $1 extra, I'm going to put you 6 feet under. And one of the life hacks is I stopped listening to users a little bit. I obviously interact with them and I'm empathetic to them. But sometimes when you're in the trenches and talking to users all the time, you forget that they really don't know anything. And so you just try to educate, and if they can't be educated, then you can block them or ignore them or do whatever. But usually, if you're not, some people, they need attention to stick around. Otherwise, they just go away. One of my favorite hacks that I learned in the service side of the industry was, if you want someone to leave you alone, ask them to do something for you, and that's the ultimate life hack in crypto. Is the second you try to make anybody do work, you'll never hear from them again.
I've had a lot of Telegram chats die when I send a Google Doc with, I've done 80% of the work. I just need your
yeah, dude,
it's
so crazy. Literally, all you need to do is read this and say, okay. Usually, the smart ones don't read it and say, okay, anyway. But yeah, the dumb ones just leave.
Yeah, the turnover is always insane. Yeah, you remind me very much of there's the treasury manager over at Olympus, Relwyn. He's so patient and asks everything. And back in the early days when I was there at comms, I would actually take a lot of his transcripts and stick it into the early GPT and try to make an agent that I could chat with him. But the indexing power in the Discord is really powerful. So I think on top of that, just answering all the questions, and like you said, the courageous ones, there's typically 20, 40 lurkers. Always got to think about that. And then the more we interact, the more powerful the index is, and the more powerful the keyword search in Discord. And I think for any newbies listening, for any community that you're joining, that's probably single most powerful place you can go find information, is that keyword search in the top right of Discord.
Yeah.
it's really, really powerful. So yeah, thank you for sharing that journey, and yeah, hats off. I love the evolution, the demon mode. I know it takes 18 months to get the hair down to the shoulders. So the earlier interviews were of Beavis in 2022. You'll see the short hair, and you've got the redacted merch
I
on.
thought that was
so
a
you've
figure of speech, but I realized it was
no.
Yeah.
I've done it. I look at my hair now. I'm 8 months away, right?
Yeah.
I'm thinking about cutting it though.
Oh, see, next evolution. See, it's the story, the art.
It's giving you like a
is
DeFi
here.
philosopher look.
Yes, indeed.
If Beavis cuts his hair, I don't know. That's gonna be we're gonna have to freak out a bit. There's something going on.
Yeah, I'll make sure I telegraph that move well in advance.
Well, yeah, thanks so much for the story and yeah, managing communities and especially the team, because you guys are working at such a high level that I'm sure the contractors and even Yuri's research. I mean, you guys are all over the place, from executing research, security, advising. It's cool to see the people out there that are the teams that are doing the advising, saying, okay, no, let's come and shop and let's see what we can get out the door.
Yeah.
So
You just run into
super
the most
excited.
insane cracked people if like you're supportive and you're in the industry. It's like
Yeah.
the people that post on Twitter and the people that are actually good at software development, very rarely are they the same people. And you just run into like principal level engineers just hanging out in crypto because it's a highly technical field, and there's alpha here for people willing to put in a little bit of the work, or people willing to do a little programming. And I've mentored dozens of engineers, hired dozens of engineers. I spent 2 years doing a lot of smart contract engineering and auditing myself, mostly doing managerial stuff nowadays. But yeah, it's like there's this industry is overflowing with talent. It's just so nerdy. So it's like cool. You just need to look for like the 35-year-old like principal engineer who's tired of frickin' managing the same 10 microservices.
Yeah. And are you noticing like the chips stacking up? Because I feel like there's just a lot of frustration in the DeFi industry from 2021 of just the innovation not getting pushed out the door. I mean, we have a lot of these kind of creamy companies on top that you alluded to earlier, and not the hardcore tech that's coming out. So are you attracting more of those? Are you seeing kind of these engineers that are coming on 3-4 year kind of, not necessarily revenge arcs, but like, we need to prove something, and the time is now?
I think like frankly, we've kind of been revenue funded from the start. So I think a lot of companies, a lot of like zombie foundation, BVI structure guys are running headfirst into the revenue meta on one hand, which just means like VCs don't have capital to deploy. So when retail is the buyer, retail generally wants fundamentals. But it's like, there's not a lot of capital sloshing around. We can't dump a bunch of tokens to fund our runway. We need to go hard and try to ship product. And this happened in 2022 and in 2023. You saw like the Graph and Gnosis and all these kind of big, monstrous zombie co's launching side projects. Same with Chainlink, incubating and launching stuff with some of the research they did in-house. Obviously, they don't advertise it, but it was done at a pretty enormous scale. And a lot of that is just like, we can't just dump tokens anymore. So they're starting to have to operate like real companies. Obviously, like not everybody, but that's just what we're seeing more of. And a lot of developers kind of got taken off the market by like total vaporware, like nothing burgers. So much time and energy going into developing EIPs that will never in a million years make it to production, or developing like, the next AI blockchain or whatever, thing got a bunch of funding. So I think it's a mixture of like reality setting in, people not able to raise new rounds. But I would say like now that Ethereum is going up, usually, like when Bitcoin pumps, nothing happens. Like the industry doesn't make any money. Developers aren't getting jobs. Like when Bitcoin spent the past couple of years pumping while Ethereum was in the gutter, it was like a freaking depression in Ethereum engineering and VC. But now that people, ETH holders are making money, we might see kind of even more of a resurgence. But I think this first wave that we're seeing is just like, people realizing they can't really skate by on, these giga treasury war chests that were raised in 2021 and 2020.
Yeah,
for sure. Well,
we're in the last couple months of 2025, you guys. Crazy.
that's right. The vaporware's fading away, and let's get back into the real tech here. So I don't want to burn any more time. Let's get right into that. The article that you shipped this morning. So Cod3x is shipping in 2 weeks. Was it V.7? Is that right?
I mean, I'm kind of debating whether to call this V2 or like 0.7, because it's like we shipped 0.6 and then we were like, oh, we need to just totally redo everything. So this is technically like the next release, but it is like a totally different experience. So we might just call it like V2 or 1.0. I think the nomenclature kind of comes out in the wash in the grand scheme of things. So we might just call it like the Cod3x Perps or Cod3x Trading Terminal. I guess you'll find out in 2 weeks after we've settled on what to call it. But it's just Cod3x at the end of the day. It's funny. I was watching. We do a lot of market research, staying up with Hey Anon. They were at like 1.95, which is like insane. And then they made this big announcement that they were launching 1.0. And I was like, okay. So I think it doesn't really matter. I think in crypto, like V1, V2, it's just hype. But like the people getting hyped about that are the guys with $6 invested. So we're not worried too much about it. So kind of a non-answer to your question. It just is what it is.
Cod3x is Cod3x. Yeah, I think that. I mean, it's embodied so many movements, and it's just making people's lives easier. So, huge drop today. A lot of things on your mind. A lot of things on the roadmap. Tell us more what to expect about these workshops. So how can people get involved? What can they expect here? This is awesome that there'll kind of be some training wheels in the early days.
Yeah. So this launch, it's going to be like pretty awesome, but it's still going to require a little bit of learning to use. This is very like bleeding edge, brand new. This is a day one sort of joint 5 years later. So I would say there are going to be a lot of live streams on Twitter and in our Discord. We're going to give away access during these streams to people. And we're trying to really like the people that we onboard early on, and it's going to be expensive to use, whether it be 100,000 CDX tokens. We're probably going to have annual subscriptions only to start. So it's going to be pretty pricey, and we want to make sure that people that are paying that know what they're buying and really want to get into it. And I like to kind of liken it to Elon Musk's early Tesla roadmap, where it was like, okay, step one, build a sports car. Steps two, take the money from the sports car and build a cheaper car. Step three, take that money and build an even cheaper car. And that's kind of the mindset right now. It's like we just want, uncompromising to start. We don't want to have to sweat the small stuff, especially financially speaking. And then over time, we'll be able to take more and more market share by creating, versions optimized for smaller models and versions that utilize more global data instead of seeking their own alpha. And there are a lot of ways we can kind of cut corners and cut costs for some of the lower end subscriptions, but that's the idea. So it's going to be very white glove. We're going to be in live streams. Anybody that wants to talk to us is going to be able to get a meeting with myself or Steven to talk about the product. And hopefully the first 100 subscribers, have all had FaceTime with us and can share their experience with us.
Yeah, the early adopters, I'm sure, are going to be all over it, and I think I'll be in there myself for sure, battle testing.
I love
was
that
there
you guys are
for
doing that forward-facing stuff too, like doing workshops, live streams, like interacting with the community and taking the time to educate. I think that's really a really good thing you guys are doing.
Appreciate that, totally.
And I love the addressing of the improved early in entries. I'm sure some of the early feedback's always going to be, those stop losses so people can get into the house money zone as soon as they can.
Yeah.
But I want to leave some time for these research goals. Pretty open-ended, but like maybe a little bit of serial versus parallel reasoning for the agents and what you're excited about there. And then really want to get into the breeding here, because of these first 100 people that are on the island or however many in the, testing out the early days, are we going to have a leaderboard of who's trading the most, and then we get to ship our genomes around, or what are your thoughts?
Dude, you're talking about shipping your genome around? This is freaking PG stream, dude. Just kidding. Yeah, I mean, really, a lot of people, kind of their first glance at Cod3x is, oh, this is, maybe a GPT wrapper or something. Not necessarily understanding the amount of research and kind of bleeding edge implementation that goes into making something that actually works in AI. So just kind of chatting about, we've got all this kind of RAG infrastructure and all this knowledge graph infrastructure and all this cool stuff that makes our intent solving work. But right now, kind of the big thing for us is, okay, when you use the app, agents are taking a long time to think. So using kind of the chain of thought reasoning process, it's like, okay, we've reasoned through this input 10 to 12 times. The user has been sitting there for 90 seconds now. That's a pretty bad experience, and it's an experience people are kind of used to by now with AI products, but it's one we want to improve on. So, in looking at kind of all these different implementations of reasoning processes, we landed on Graph of Thoughts as a really compelling one, not necessarily because of the quality of output, which it'll be a quality output. It's going to be great. There's a lot of really interesting ways to land on kind of the optimal output, but the reason we like it, and we hope more people try doing this, is we can save that graph every time an agent goes through the reasoning process, and we can have, next time the user talks to their agent, if they're asking for something similar as what's described in the graph, all of the steps where they're deciding on tools to use, or they're figuring out intent, or they're figuring out desired output, all the evaluations, we can skip past those by reading the graph and starting at a later reasoning process. And that's really exciting to us, because now potentially, especially if you've been using your agent for a long time, these reasoning graphs can be paired with the knowledge graph to create a way to have the same level of output, but save you costs that you've spent in the past, and also save you time reasoning that you've put in the past. So it's like we're creating essentially muscle memory within these agents, where it's like, oh, they want me to trade perps. Okay, I already know the setup for that. I already know what they want. I have all this context already. Let me just start at the strategy development part, instead of figuring out tool selection, instead of solving intent, instead of doing all this evaluation. And so that, for us, in conjunction with the superior output from kind of the DAG reasoning, we just over time get faster and faster output. And this is something that it's still in the research phase for us. It is like, there's not a lot of information on it. Not many people have implemented it. It might end up sucking. Like, that's kind of like, we've tried so many things to improve our agents at this point. Maybe 50% of them don't work very well. But this is kind of one of our more promising developments right now. And if we can see it kind of make its way to production and fulfill even 50 to 75% of its potential. We'll be seeing huge cost improvements for users, UX and speed improvements for users, and the agents will also just overall seem much smarter, and you'll get way higher quality outputs.
Yeah, that's exciting.
This is awesome.
Yeah, it'll know how we want to trade before we even log in, and so.
Yeah.
But yeah, so these combinations of things are do you have with the breeding of agents, is more of it just on the macro level, or are we?
Yeah.
Like will individuals be competing with proprietary, I guess, performance?
Yeah, so there won't be a lot, like a lot of the proprietary stuff going on, we're going to let people keep in their MCP server or segment it from the Codex app. You know, Codex itself right now, because we're still in kind of the research and early stages, we're going to be using all the data we can get to make the best possible agents. And so our head engineer right now, Munchies, you might have seen him in our Discord or wherever. He spent 10 years building neural networks as a research engineer for a couple companies in Australia. And, you know, we're not necessarily going as far as doing like full neuroevolution, which is kind of an evolutionary framework in its own right. But we're just starting with evolutionary algorithms to optimize agent configuration, reasoning structure, knowledge graph structure, as well as some of the other kind of peripheral elements of our agents. So, you know, the reason for that is we're using Sonnet 4 mostly right now. A little bit of GPT-5, a little bit of GPT 4.1, a little bit of Gemini Flash, and then some custom RAG stuff. And the thing that sucks about using Sonnet or using GPT is you don't have access to the weights. You cannot modify the base model really. And so because of that, you need to build all this infrastructure on top to get the output that you're looking for. And these are amazing models. Any open source model will get totally blown out by Sonnet or by GPT. That's the reason we use them. They outperform every single one. And fine tuning, we've spent plenty of time and money doing it. It's generally not worth it at all. You know, the models out of the box generally work great. And we find the best performance improvements come at the context level. And so with these evolutionary algorithms, what we've done is we're creating this genome, which is just like a JSON object that a lot of the configuration of the various aspects of the agents throughout their life cycle is stored in this genome so that we can kind of compare and contrast. Hey, agents with a genome more similar to this have better Sharpe ratios or have better P&L than the agents with these other genomes. And so what we're trying to do is we're trying to create a way where we can take the thousands of agents that we're managing and efficiently derive insight and evolve our processes so that users can actually get the optimal output over time. And, you know, we can only do so much like sitting there and brainstorming and thinking, how can we make these agents? What can we shove in? But, you know, that only scales so well. And so, you know, by using evolutionary algorithms, we can essentially iterate on our agents at a humongous scale using tons of data without, you know, having to have 1,000 people or, you know, put in an insane amount of effort. And this is kind of our attempt at saving time, saving money, and giving agents the ability to self-improve without having access to the weights, without being able to implement RLHF or any of the other things that people using open source models benefit from.
That's super exciting. I can't even imagine, what you guys have, what your workflows are in the back to manage that kind of evolution and research.
Lots of Claude, frankly. Excuse me. I
Yeah.
got a strawberry lemonade and then I made my own coffee in here. I'm not drinking Wendy's
Combine the
coffee.
strawberry lemonade and coffee.
No, I finished the strawberry lemonade.
Okay,
and then
okay.
I
It
reused
just
the
got a
cup,
little left over.
saving myself some dishes. But yeah, I would say, you know, the nice thing about AI and, you know, the concept of the 10x or the 100x engineer, an issue, and I've observed many engineers since kind of the dawn of AI programming or AI software engineering. And what a lot of people do, and this is the same with like junior engineers when they're learning how to test, is they ask the AI something or whatever, and then they wait. They sit there, they stare at their terminal. They're like, I can browse Twitter right now. You know, the thing that's way better about AI than DeFi is, you know, AI has been around for 50 years. There's so much money. There's so much beautiful research that hasn't been implemented or has been sparsely implemented, but it's very well specified, which is great because, you know, our implementation cycles can be super short. And so we can do a lot of research. Implementation takes a day or two, maybe 5 if there's a ton of complicated debugging. And then we can move on to the next thing. We can have this instance, you know, shout out Kubernetes, shout out Docker. We can have this instance running with this kind of research. We can be like, okay, let's now, you know, implement this. Let's implement this. Let's implement this. And so, you know, we can get away with having like a 3-person team and building way faster than anybody, really just by kind of staggering those development and research cycles and being really aggressive about testing. So yeah, it's, I mean, if you're a software engineer in the audience and you're not all in on Claude Code, minus maybe DeFi engineers because Claude isn't really good at smart contracts, but everybody else, like, you got to be using it. You've got to learn how to use it because people will use it and they expect, oh, it's going to be so easy. I'm just going to dive in. It's going to do all the work. That's not the case. You know, you need to learn how to use it, figure out what works, do your research, watch your YouTube videos, figure out, you know, optimal technique, figure out what, you know, MCPs you want to use, and go from there. You will go 10x. But as far as like hardline, like final implementation, generally a lot of the like rapid prototype Claude Code stuff gets thrown out or refactored heavily. So it's kind of like a trade-off, but you can do research so freaking fast if you know what you're doing. So highly recommend it.
Yeah,
Very cool.
It's difficult to bet against teams that are working on AI products because you know they're also developing AI processes in between. So it's pretty lethal to think about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A cool thing about our app, is everything you see on Codex is entirely API driven, and so we've made every UI element, every function of the app, every data source, everything is a tool that can be utilized by an agent. So if you go on Codex, it's not.
I was gonna say maybe we screen share and show the website really quick in the app.
Well, it's kind of our lead engineer's home server's off right now. So let me see if he turned it on. Okay. He could technically be awake right now, but it's like 6 or 7 a.m. for him.
No worries.
Sorry,
I did want to show like little or big Tony on the website too.
Oh yeah.
Super cool.
We're also redoing our website here, so we might lose out on Big Tony. So check it out while you can.
All right.
Yeah, we need that merch before it's gone. I actually ordered redacted merch when they went to Dinero too, so it was a big push.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, I'm sure there'll be a demand for Big Tony if you push some out.
Yeah, if there's enough demand, we can come on and do a demo again when we're better prepared.
All right, drop in the comments if you guys want to see Big Tony merch, let us know. All right.
But yeah, Rachel, I've dominated the subject matter for sure, but I know we're over time.
I've just been listening. I feel like I should have been taking notes throughout this whole thing. Yeah, I'm just really excited about what you're building at Codex, Justin, and I am curious, maybe we do like a fun, like rapid fire portion. And, you know, obviously we're big proponents of Base. I'm curious, like if you have any favorite projects on Base or any reason, you know, that you're bullish or, yeah, like the community.
Yeah, yeah. I really like Banker. I think their landing page is one of the best in the game right now. And I also think they're doing a really good job of taking the imperative intent solving use case kind of to its limit, because we sort of abandoned it halfway through. So Banker is really cool to look at. Otherwise on Base, I mean, Aerodrome is cool. Wagme Alexander, shout out. BMX, obviously, super dope. Shout out.
Yeah, I heard that's a good one.
Yeah, the sandwich token. Yeah, I would say overall on Base, everything's pretty good or better. So you can't ask for much more.
Awesome. And I'm curious, like, what do you view as the biggest opportunity in AI and crypto right now?
Obviously, agentic finance is my big one. You know, I would say that's probably by 2030 going to be $2-3 trillion plus opportunity. I think like there's a lot of like foo-foo vaporware stuff that I actually think is really cool. Like people trying to enshrine AI directly in their blockchain networks. I don't think it's going to go anywhere, and I don't think it really is useful. But I think it's very cool, and I like to look at it. And then maybe like data federation, I think and stuff like what Grass is doing, Get Grass, where it's like using a Chuck E. Cheese token to get people to let spyware on their computer. I think that's really good. It's like, you know, Golem style OG info farming. I'm talking about it kind of pessimistically, but I actually think it's really useful. And then I think like ZK, generally speaking, is cool in its applications related to identity and being able to, you know, throw an ID card in your agent's wallet so that, you know, you kind of have a signature. And I'm sure like there's some other really cool AI stuff going on in crypto, but there's a lot of like crypto not needed stuff that's cool as well, which is classic.
Yeah, totally. Okay, and I know we're over the hour mark here, but I just want to ask just a take home for our audience, for those who are watching and listening today. In one sentence, can you describe Codex's ultimate mission?
Yeah, our mission is to destroy all alpha and level the financial markets so that every single person on Earth is on an even playing field.
Ooh.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I guess that's more of a vision than a mission, but you'll have to live with that.
Awesome. Well, Justin, thank you so much. And I'm curious where folks can like follow along with what you're building, get connected, and how folks can get started.
Yeah, sure. So follow the Codex Twitter at Cod3x You can follow me at 0xbebis_. And if you do that, you'll be able to find everything else pretty easily. You know, hit us on Discord. We're always around, always chatting with people. And yeah, overall, just don't be a stranger. If you have questions, feel free to DM me. My DMs are open on every platform. I'm happy to kind of jam with anybody.
Awesome. Well, Justin, just seeing your track record, your background, everything you've done, thank you for the work you've done in our space. I mean, being an OG from like the kernel days, I think that's just so cool. I actually, by the way, I have some books here. You'll probably know this one. This will probably look familiar to you. This is one of my favorite books here. I keep it near my near my
That's
desk.
funny. Yeah, hell yeah.
Yeah.
You're a
So yeah, awesome. Yeah, Deez, I'm not sure if you have any other final thoughts or anything you want to share, like final calls to action from the BMX side.
Yeah, final call to action on the BMX side is please, amplify the Sherlock contest. We definitely want as many eyes as we can on that. But yeah, just really appreciate having Justin on today. I mean, I've been in parallel trenches with the Codex team and seen follow the journey, at close and far distances, and I'm just impressed in the journey. And excited to see what happens next. I think there's a lot of storylines that have developed over the past 4 years of DeFi builders and people who've been in the space. And the time is coming. You can't keep the balloon underwater for this long for the next wave of innovation. And so that magical feeling we had in DeFi summer, everyone remembers so clearly. I think it's coming with AI and these kind of unlocks. And I think Codex is right there with everyone. And make sure you join their Discord and give Tony a spin.
Yeah, hell yeah. Appreciate that, Deez.
Awesome. And let them know if you want the big Tony merch, you guys, in the comments. And Justin, super grateful for you taking the time today. Thank you for all that you do. And by the way, you guys, Justin gained a lot of points with me. I looked on YouTube. One of the first things I saw is Justin in an Opolis swag. So some of you might know I worked at Opolis for 2 years. So he got a lot of points from me there. So Justin, super grateful to have you on today. And we'll see you guys on the next Let's Ride.
Thanks for your time, everybody.
Appreciate
Thanks, everyone.
Bye-bye.